of Horsham District Council. Before we begin, I have some housekeeping announcements. Please note the location of the fire exits, which are behind me to my right and over there to the left. Please make sure that your mobile phones and other devices are switched to silent. And also please note an audio recording of the meeting is being made and will be published on the council's website, and I believe is also being live streamed. If I'm wrong. Okay. Right, item 1, apologies for absence. No apologies have been received. Item 2, minutes of the previous cabinet meeting on pages 3 to 8. So that's this meeting held on 23rd of March. These need to be approved as a correct record of the previous meeting. It is appreciated that we are a new cabinet. However, 3 sitting cabinet members were present as members of the opposition at the last cabinet meeting. Therefore, are you content to confirm the accuracy of the minutes? Are there any comments from other members on that who were on the cabinet at the time?
I think we were all cabinet members. Yeah, and we were at that meeting, of course, and I read through the minutes, and I'm personally very happy to confirm that they're accurate. And you are?
Thank you very much, Councillor Circus and Councillor Knoll. So, therefore, are you all in agreement?
Agreed.
Thank you. Right, item 3, declaration of members' interests. Does any member of the Cabinet have an interest to declare relating to any item on the agenda? No, good. Item 4, announcements. I don't have any announcements to make at this time. Do any other Cabinet members like to make any announcements? No. Does the Chief Executive have any announcements? Thank you very much. Item 5, public questions. No questions relevant to the business of the meeting have been received. Move on to item 6, Transformation Fund 2023-24 on pages 9 to 14 of the pack. I invite Councillor Mark Bainham, Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources, to introduce his report.
Yeah, thank you very much, Martin. You have before you a paper entitled Using the Transformation Fund in 2023-2024. Just by a little bit of background for those who may not be so familiar, the Transformation Fund was set up in 2016-2017, and it was meant to be a fund that would facilitate the improving effectiveness and efficiency of council staff in order to provide a better service to the public. And most of the fund was set up with an initial fund of £500,000, and it's been used every year. It's never been used to the complete amount of 500,000, but what's happened every year since 2016 is that fund has been topped up at the beginning of the next year to bring it back to £500,000. The main areas that it's been spent on relate to IT improvements, both in software and also in hardware, but also includes training and coaching on new systems and new ways of working to improve it, to improve the service generally. The paper before you is that we're proposing to continue this fund at the moment, and we want to I'm proposing that we continue it in the same funding of £500,000 for the forthcoming financial year that we've already started. Last year, the spending was actually around £258,000, so there is actually a surplus, and it's my intention that we should transfer that surplus to make up the figure to 500,000. And then the process after that is that I'm recommending that we delegate authority for use of that fund, as long as it's for the purposes that we've deemed it for, to the Chief Executive, in consultation with the leader and myself. So that's the recommendation. If there's anybody who would like to ask any questions or make any comments, then I would invite them to do so.
So we'll start with any members of the Cabinet first who have any questions or comments. No? Any other members present would like to make any comments on this item? No? Thank you. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there. Councillor Knoll, please do go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, can you just repeat, you are transferring the current reserve back into the normal account to put 500 back in? I didn't quite follow that, sorry.
All right, so there's a surplus of £258,000 that was unspent from last year, and so we're intending to take the money to build it up to back to 500,000 from that surplus. So essentially it's a continuation of that fund.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
I believe presumably that was a surplus on the revenue account at the end of the year, which is transferred into the transformation fund. So it's surplus from the revenue account from the last year, which is put into the transformation fund, and I would imagine the rest, what 20,000, whatever's left after that, goes into the general fund. Correct? Yeah. Are there any other members who wish to comment on this? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, therefore, to summarise, the recommendations are to approve the transfer of £221,000 from the General Fund Reserve to the Earmark Transformation Reserve, and to delegate to the Chief Executive, in consultation with the Leader and Cabinet Member for Finance, the authority to use the Transformation Fund as appropriate. Could I therefore see a show of hands in favour of this? Any against? Okay, thank you very much. The vote is unanimous. Item 7, Neighbourhood Plan Update for Cowfold, Itchingfield, Lower Beeding and Pulborough parishes, which you'll find on pages 15 to 78 of the pack. I invite Councillor John Milne, Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Martin. As everyone now knows, I think, water neutrality has impacted on Horsham District in many ways. One important effect has been to delay progress on the preparation of neighbourhood plans. This council strongly supports the principle of local democracy, so this is deeply frustrating. Currently, 4 neighbourhood plans continue to be held up: Cowfold Neighbourhood Plan, Itchingfield, Lower Beeding and Pulborough have all passed their neighbourhood plan examinations, but cannot progress to referendum due to the high legal bar in place, which requires them to show that they are water neutral. First and foremost, I would like to recognise the exceptional dedication shown by volunteer members of our community. Producing a neighbourhood plan is a major undertaking. It would have been quite impossible without the commitment shown by parish councils and members of the neighbourhood plan steering groups who have worked tirelessly on behalf of their communities. They truly represent the best example of people coming together to decide collectively on how their towns and villages should grow and prosper. We very much share their frustration that these plans cannot, for legal reasons, progress to the referendum stage. Whilst work is underway in preparing the water neutrality implementation scheme that will allow these plans to progress, we are acutely aware that opportunistic development proposals continue to be submitted in the meantime, some of which may be strongly contrary to local wishes. For this reason, we have prepared advice notes to provide clarity to communities and stakeholders on how emerging neighbourhood plan policies can be considered when considering planning applications. In the event of an appeal, a planning advice note is a material consideration that an inspector will take into consideration when reaching his or her conclusion. Whilst I recognise that these advice notes are not the referendums that the parishes and indeed the council itself would wish for, we believe that these notes will strengthen the hands of parishes as far as is practically possible until a district-wide solution is forthcoming in the shape of the local plan. To be clear, the council makes a commitment to all our local communities that as soon as a district-wide water neutrality solution is in place, all these neighbourhood plans will be progressed to referendum and made at full council at the earliest opportunity. You will note that the second recommendation of this report, if agreed, would allow me to agree any necessary minor editorial changes to the planning advice notes. Whilst it is not anticipated that these will be necessary, sometimes typos are spotted or minor grammatical corrections required to ensure the meaning of the council's advice note is clear and unambiguous. I recognise any changes of wording could be interpreted as changing the sense of what has been agreed, although that is not the intention. So given the work of the communities on this matter, I therefore propose that local ward members are also involved in the agreeing of any minor changes that might be necessary. Therefore, I propose that the wording of recommendation 2 be slightly amended to read, grants the Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure, together with any relevant ward members, delegated authority, with the remainder of the recommendation to read as currently drafted. So to clarify, whilst this recommendation will cause the advice note to be amended in this manner, it does not allow changes to the wording of the neighbourhood plans themselves. I therefore propose that the recommendation to endorse these advice notes as outlined is agreed by the Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would any other members of the Cabinet like to comment on this proposal? Ruth.
I'd just like to add my support to this very strong support from the council for the neighbourhood plans, and to ensure that these plans that have been held up so long can be progressed as fast as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Mercer.
Similarly, that considerable taxpayer funds, as well as parish council funds, have gone into the preparation of these plans, and it's unfortunate that the deployment of resource should be held up in that way.
Thank you. Do any other members present like to comment? Councillor Lambert.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Milne, for the summary. I'm really happy about this because I think these advice notes will help the parishes concerned. I am concerned, though, that in the recommendation, although you've given your verbal confirmation that you will consult with the local ward members of the parishes involved, that could it be in the recommendation, please?
Yes, it can. Yes.
Super. Thank you so much.
Councillor Circus.
Thank you, Leader. Can I say it's delightful to have Councillor Milne's praise for the work that parishes have done on their neighbourhood plans and endorsing how important those plans are. My experience of late is that there is actually concern that when we get around to looking at the draft district plan, that provisions in neighbourhood plans could well be overridden. And we are getting concern, certainly I'm getting concern from parish councils who feel that they've invested, as Councillor Milne rightly said, a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, and a lot of real work has gone into producing those plans, that those aspects of those plans are going to be at risk from the emerging district plan. That was the case with the district plan that I voted, the draft plan that I voted should be delayed, because there were aspects in there that had been inserted by officers and were hotly contested by parish councils as being inconsistent with their neighbourhood plans. So can I have some sort of assurance from Councillor Milne that when it comes to the construction of the district plan, a very high priority will be given to existing and emerging neighbourhood plans and the wishes of local communities, because you will remember, well, maybe you won't, but because maybe you don't take a lot of notice of what the Prime Minister says, but the Prime Minister made it clear in the House of Commons that the new approach to planning, following what he said was the end of mandatory housing numbers, was that we had a bottom-up approach. And that is consistent with paying the very greatest respect to parish councils and to neighbourhood plans. And I would be very grateful, Leader, if Councillor Milne could give, on behalf of your administration, some comfort on that point.
Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Councillor Circus. It's impossible to answer that question fully at this point. We are reviewing essentially you're talking about the housing targets for Horsham District, which of course has been a matter of great controversy for many years. We are reviewing them currently. As you'll be aware, water neutrality has had a significant impact on them and may, in practice, dictate what our target is going forward. I've also asked Jeremy Quinn MP to come and meet to clarify what is the state of play with government policy, because it has been confusing, as I think you would agree. I've seen many variable, contrary interpretations from around the country and from various bodies, from other local authorities. It's quite confusing, and the legislation is far from complete. There's a consultation, several consultations, also not complete. So it is actually quite hard to be sure what the direction of travel is or where we're going to end up. So I'm hoping that Jeremy will be able to meet with us and clarify on that score. Apart from that, in the we will be talking and sharing with all councillors updates on that when we have the information available and where we can go with the numbers. But yes, neighbour plans are our starting point, and we would love it to be our finishing point, but that does depend on our legal obligations under national planning law, whatever we manage to find out they are. Thank you.
Did you wish to follow up at all, Councillor Circus?
No, I was looking for that commitment, which came in the very last sentence, I think, Councillor Milne, that you would put neighbourhood plans, centre stage in a sense, at least I think that's what you said, centre stage in relation to the work. Because I know that there are a lot of unknowns in this, but obviously there is a question of the process and the approach. And what I'm asking is that the approach gives considerable weight to local neighbourhood plans and emerging neighbourhood plans, and to the wishes and views of those who establish those plans. And I think, Councillor Milne, that was more or less what you said in the last sentence, so that's why I didn't immediately jump to follow it up with a supplementary.
Yes, the neighbour plan, if we're legally permitted, it would be our intention to build no more than is in the neighbourhood plans, if that is legally permitted. If it isn't,
No, I understand.
Law is law.
Thank you very much. Were there any other comments from members present? No. In which case we move to the recommendations, which includes the amended recommendation number 2. So recommendation 1, to formally endorse the neighbourhood planning advice notes for Cowfold, Itchingfield, Lower Beeding and Pulborough parishes, and agree to the publication of a document for use as a non-statutory planning advice note. And recommendation 2, to grant the Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure delegated authority to agree any necessary minor editorial changes to the document referenced in one above, in consultation and mutual agreement with the relevant ward members. All those in favour? Against? That is unanimously carried. Thank you. Item 8, adoption of Rusper Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan. That's pages 79 to 90 plus appendix from page 105. I invite Councillor John Milne, Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Martin. Within Horsham District, there are 37 adopted conservation areas. There is a legal duty placed on local planning authorities to designate conservation areas where appropriate, to review the designations regularly, and to plan for the management of conservation areas to ensure that they retain their special character and interest. Over recent years, therefore, the Council has been progressing a rolling programme of producing conservation area appraisals and management plans for each area, and Rusper Conservation Area is next. As part of Rusper's review, it was proposed that the conservation area be extended to include the gardens of Gill Manor to the north. This would be consistent with and enhance the character of the existing conservation area. Cabinet agreed on 29th of September 2022 to approve the draft conservation area appraisal and management plan for Rusper for public consultation. A 5-week public consultation was consequently held between the 12th of January 2023 and the 16th of February. Following the consultation exercise, one response was received from a resident suggesting that the recreation field is included within the conservation area, as it is a highly valued and sensitive part of the village. However, after consideration, it was decided not to include the recreation ground, as the space does not have the specific historic or architectural interest to warrant inclusion within the conservation area, although this does not detract from its importance in reinforcing the conservation area's rural setting, or indeed its communal value. It is therefore recommended that Cabinet ask Council to approve the extension to Rusper Conservation Area and adopt the associated appraisal and management plan to help inform future planning decisions for developments within or adjoining the conservation area. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any other members of the Cabinet like to comment on this proposal? Any other comments from members? I believe Councillor Kitchen got to me a little earlier. Councillor Circus, I shall come to you in a moment.
Yes, thank you, Leader. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to the officers for all the hard work that has been put into this. It makes me laugh slightly, but nothing to do with anything else, with the disgraceful state that the grounds of Gill Manor are in, that they're lucky enough to be included in the conservation area. I think it's a police dog training ground at the moment and has nothing going for it. But I would like to ask the Cabinet to reconsider the inclusion of the recreation field. I've read all the reasons for not including it, which on paper I can actually understand, but it is one of the high points of the parish, actually. It's got a view right down, it looks all over the South Downs. You can see it, you can see the whole of the area for anything. It's got some wonderful trees in it. Not many, actually, I have to admit, but nonetheless, they're lovely trees. It's the only open space within the conservation area where older children can play. You've got a young people's playground and the school playground, but that is the only area where you can be. And it is very much an integral part of the village. No, you can't say it's of architectural interest because it isn't, it's a field. But it would give it more protection, I believe, if it could be included. And I'd like to ask you either to reconsider that or maybe defer it to look at it. I've got absolutely no problems with the rest of the plan. I fully support it. And again, I repeat, I would like to thank people who've gone into all this trouble. But I realise putting a recreation field into a conservation area could be difficult, but if you read some of the areas where it can be looked at, I believe they can be included, and it wouldn't be exclusive if we did this. So I'd just like to ask the Cabinet to have some thoughts on that.
Councillor Milne.
Thank you, Councillor Kitchen. Yes, I very much appreciate that it's a very valuable and valued space for local residents. I don't think we would have any intention of ever intruding on that space, whether or not, or whatever protection it had on it. And I appreciate your concern and the concern of the resident who objected. However, it has been looked at very thoroughly by professionals, and we have to be guided by their advice. As you say, it's not of historical architectural merit, so I feel that we do need to accept the recommendation as given by officers. Thank you.
I don't like what you're saying, but I accept it.
Before I do move on, this is probably slightly unusual and the other way around, but if I might be permitted to ask a question of Councillor Kitchen, actually, would you happen to know whether, I'm not even familiar myself, whether Rusper Parish has a made neighbourhood plan, and if it does, would you happen to know whether the recreation ground is designated as local green space in the neighbourhood plan?
Oh, crumbs, I know they've made a neighbourhood plan. I need to Barbara here, but there's so many neighbourhood plans she probably can't remember. But I have a feeling it would have been included, but I can't say that it was because I actually don't know for a fact.
Thank you. If it's of any existence,
something that's not true.
that's fine. No, if it's of any assistance, I would just say that having been involved in producing a neighbourhood plan myself, local green space designation does have the same status as Greenbelt. So I appreciate it's not conservation protection, it's more protection against development, but it might well be something that's worth investigating with the parish council.
As I say, I don't like what I hear, but I accept it.
Thank you, Councillor Kitchen. Councillor Circus.
Thank you, Leader. I've got 3 points, questions that I'd like to ask. The first is, if my memory serves me correctly, and maybe it doesn't because it's been rather a topsy-turvy time the last few months, I thought the West Chiltington new conservation area went out for consultation at the same time. I don't know whether I'm getting a nod from Barbara Childs to say my memory is
I believe
correct.
you are.
But if it is correct, I wonder whether we could know why that one is obviously still in progress, because that is a matter of considerable interest, as you can imagine, to the people I represent in West Chiltington. Secondly, if I can ask a technical question, we did look, I seem to remember at one of the last cabinets at the question of local listing. And I wonder whether there's a feeling that if we take an area and extend a conservation area, that obviates the need to perhaps think seriously about local listing of properties within that conservation area. And the third question, we have many a happy time in the planning committee, Planning South, talking about the status of things like emerging neighbourhood plans, emerging policies of one sort or another. And what status is that given by officers, planning officers, and what status is that given by inspectors on appeal? So I wonder whether, and maybe this is one for Barbara to answer, what status would the officers at Horsham give to an application that was in an area where there was an emerging, if I can use that expression in relation to conservation areas, an emerging conservation area? So 3 questions there, Leader, if I may be so bold.
Thank you. I think I'll have to pass that over to the officer. That's before my time.
Yeah, happy to help here. So the Wells Conservation Area, which is the West Chiltington Conservation Area, along with an additional conservation area in Horsham Town, is on the forward plan for consideration by Cabinet in next month and by Council in September. So they are programmed to come forward. There were comments, a number of public comments about those designations as a result of the consultation, and they have, I think, quite rightly been given serious consideration and therefore needed further work and did not come alongside this particular review of an existing conservation area. I think I just had confirmation as well from Clive that the recreation ground is identified as an asset of community value, so there is some protection as well, just to answer Councillor Kitchen's point. You also asked Councillor Serkis about the status of an emerging conservation area. So a conservation area only has full weight, I'm afraid, when it's been through its full process and it has been designated.
I appreciate that, Barbara, because
little weight. So because until it's been through, it's clearly, as the reason for the Wells cottages actually not coming forward now is because of the seriousness we're taking the consideration of the comments that have been received. So until it has been through its full process, it does not carry weight, I'm afraid.
And then there was the third question.
The third question was, I suppose, the relationship between local listing and conservation areas, and whether in practice, if not in theory, a conservation, extending or creating a conservation area obviated the necessity to go further and think about local listing of properties within that area.
Yes. So many communities have decided to do some further work on local listing in addition to either their neighbourhood plan or conservation work, and they have submitted that information through to the District Council. It is an additional layer, local listing. It isn't referred to in statute, but it identifies things that are important to local communities and is therefore worthwhile. But that can be done through either process, often through the neighbourhood planning process.
Were there any other comments from members? Okay. Therefore, the recommendations we have before us are: 1, to approve the designation of the revised conservation area boundary for Rusper as shown on the conservation area designation map 1 included in this report. To approve and adopt the conservation area appraisal and management plan for Rusper as set out in Appendix 2 to be used in the determination of planning applications from the 22nd of June 2022. I believe that's a correction. There was an incorrect date of 21st in before, so that's the correct date is the 26th of June 2022. And to delegate authority to the Cabinet Member for Planning and Infrastructure to approve minor editorial changes prior to final publication of the Conservation Area Appraisal and Management Plan. Could I see all those votes in favour, please? Any against? Thank you, that vote is unanimous. Item 9.
Sorry, can I just confirm it's the 26th of June, because you said the 22nd the first time and then the 26th, and it is the 26th.
It is the 26th of June, yes. Yes, I have been reminded that my sight test is due at the opticians, so I'll be taking that up shortly. Thank you. Item 9. Bishoprick, Worthing Road and Carfax public realm improvements. Appointment of consultant and contractor. This is on pages 91 to 98 of the pack. I invite Councillor Ruth Fletcher, Cabinet Member for the Local Economy and Place, to introduce this report.
I'm pleased to table this report seeking approval to appoint a consultant and contractor using the SCAPE framework to design, develop and deliver a public realm improvement scheme for the Bishoprick and Worthing Road area, and also to develop a shovel-ready scheme for the Carfax, which will allow us to bid for future funding as opportunities arise. The Bishopric Public Realm area is a gateway to town for those arriving by bus, and it links routes into and across the town centre for people on foot, cycling and using mobility aids. It hosts the Saturday market and a range of other events and activities, such as Horsham's traditional Morris dancing in May. This area, including its extensions up Springfield Road and down Worthing Road, has deteriorated over the years. Paved areas were not built strongly enough to take the weight of the vehicles that need to access the area for the market, for major events and for building works. They are now broken and unsightly, with a patchwork of tarmac infills. Soft landscaping features have also degraded over time. This is an opportunity to improve the layout. There is a need to improve active travel provision for pedestrian, cycling and mobility movement between Bishopric, Springfield Road, Albion Way, John Lewis, Waitrose, Worthing Road and the wider town centre. It is also a chance to improve pedestrian access to the businesses on the north side of the Bishopric, all while accommodating the market and providing flexibility for other events. This contract will also deliver a design to repair and improve the public realm in the Carfax, incorporating a range of improvements to further enhance our low traffic town centre. The study will look at making crossing the Carfax easier and smoother for pedestrians, especially those with mobility difficulties, providing two-way cycle access and reducing the number of private vehicles cutting through the Carfax. Cabinet made capital provision of 22.638 million in January 23 to support delivery of a scheme to improve the appearance and function of the area. Following agreement to appoint a consultant and contractor, it's anticipated that design development will take approximately 12 months, with a further 12 months to build and deliver the scheme. I would now ask Cabinet to agree the report recommendations, but with one minor amendment. In the change of the Cabinet portfolios, we've managed to catch most of the changes of portfolio name, but there's one that's sneaked through here. So I'd ask approval to amend the recommendations to from Cabinet Member for Horsham Town to Cabinet Member for Local Economy and Place. So I would now ask Cabinet to agree the report recommendations to 1, approve the call off from the SCAPE framework to facilitate the delivery of the public realm improvements, and 2, award the contracts to the relevant suppliers named in the SCAPE framework and delegate authority to the Director of Place in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Local Economy and Place to approve the final terms, including the contract sums.
Thank you, Councillor Fletcher. Did any other Cabinet members wish to comment on these proposals? Any other members present who would like to comment? Thank you. Therefore, I will ask for a vote on these recommendations as amended and as read out by Councillor Fletcher, please. All those in favour? Against? That is unanimously carried. Thank you. Item 10, Environmental Health and Licensing and Economic Development Staffing, pages 99 to 104 of the pack. This report involves 2 Cabinet portfolios, Local Economy and Place and Environmental Health, Recycling and Waste. I invite Councillor Mercer or Councillor Fletcher to introduce this report. Councillor Mercer first.
I'll start Leader and Councillor Fletcher.
Could you switch on your microphone, please, Councillor Mercer?
If I start, Leader, Councillor Fletcher will pick up from me.
Thank you.
So the environmental health team has experienced a significant demand for its services that can no longer be contained within existing resources. And the report therefore sets out the rationale for creating an additional post in that team. The background to this is the tragic death of 2-year-old Awab Ishaq in Rochdale, which brought home to all of us the stark and reality of the impact that mould in people's homes can have. And his death has led, understandably, to an increase in complaints from people living in the private rented sector. It's also prompted action by the government, who will shortly be publishing new guidance on damp and mould in homes, and that will place additional requirements on local authorities. The second part of the rationale is that we're also experiencing a sharp increase in numbers of houses of multiple occupation. And to give you a feel for this, in 2020, there were just 5 such in the district, and today there are 24, and there are many more applications across the district that will need to go through the licensing process. So as the report sets out, the licensing of these properties is complex work. It's forecast that these demands around private sector housing will remain challenging, and therefore it's appropriate to create a new full-time position. And just to be clear, the head of environmental health has emailed all the relevant PDAGs members in the absence of the ability to take this to a meeting, and there have been no objections or comments. And I pass over to my colleague.
Thank you. The Economic Development Team faces a key challenge over the next few years, arising from the older age profile of 3 senior members of the team. The head of economic development and the 2 economic development officers are all approaching retirement age and eligible for flexible retirement. We have an opportunity to look at the succession planning for the team and ensure that we maintain the resources needed to continue the essential business support. The measures proposed will ensure a managed transition from the current senior officers in the team and allow the junior officers to progress to senior positions in the period prior to the potential retirement of the more senior officers. The additional temporary, that's 2 years, Assistant Economic Development Officer post would help to deliver the Shared Prosperity Fund. This is aimed at those Year 2 and Year 3 projects that have been agreed in principle, but which do not yet have detailed project plans. As previously, this information has been circulated to the PDAG members and no comments or objections have been received.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Mercer. Are there any comments on these proposals from other members of the Cabinet? No. Other members present? Councillor Serkis.
I think this is a very welcome expenditure. Maybe it's because I'm a lawyer, but I think regulatory services are the unsung heroes of the council. Ordinary people don't realise what a significant contribution regulatory services, and particularly environmental health, make to their well-being. I mean, I can think of several instances locally where environmental health had played a big part in addressing noise issues. I can think of a business that was selling cooked food without being licensed, which meant because they weren't licensed, they weren't inspected. And so the health of residents was put at risk. And so anything that strengthens environmental health and the resources they have, and if more could be done, it's always very difficult, to do this, but the more we can highlight to our communities the important work that environmental health does, the better. So I fully support the recommendation. The only slight concern I have is the way some of the new titles of portfolios have been configured might suggest that waste and recycling, or particularly recycling, has been in some way, it no longer has the priority for the new administration that it did in our administration. I agree, configuring these titles is difficult, but I just make the point because, frankly, others have made the point to me. And if I get nothing else today, it would be useful to have a confirmation that that is not the case. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Serkis. Nothing could be further from my mind than to downgrade those services in any way. Personally, I think it's hot competition between recycling and waste and planning for the highest profile services that the council provides and that members of the public associate with us. So nothing could be further from my mind. There's absolutely no great downgrade in the importance of the services that particularly the teams in recycling waste perform for us. I think it's a fantastic service, and we have some excellent dedicated members of staff in those teams, and I think it's a very good reflection actually on this council, the service that they provide, the fact that it's actually an in-house service rather than a contracted out service. So I'm sorry if my use of the lexicon is disappointing to anyone, but there's certainly no harm intended in it whatsoever. Does that provide you with assurance, Councillor Serkis? Any other members wish to comment? Oh, sorry, I apologise, Councillor Kitchen. Yes, I do.
Actually, I haven't got much more to add to that, except to say how delighted I am that this is going ahead, particularly with houses of multiple occupation now increasing, not just in our district, but all over the place. And I think the service that this council offers in that area is incredible, and I'm delighted about the fact it's going ahead. It's been talked about for a while. I think I can only say that I hope that the money, not necessarily from here, is there to back up what we're planning to do, because we all know these things come at a cost. And I suspect some government money may have to come in here to help us out, but well done for doing it.
Yes, I share your thoughts on that, Councillor Kitchen. Thank you very much. Were there any other comments from members? Very well, then if we could move to approve the recommendation to approve the £41,200 increase in the 2023-24 salaries budget to accommodate the creation of 2 extra posts, 1 in environmental health team and a temporary post in economic development. Apologies, it's a recommendation to council rather than a decision here. So obviously this will be going on to council. I really must get that optician's appointment. All those in favour, please. Against? That is also passed unanimously. Thank you. Item 11, Overview and Scrutiny Committee. I would invite the chairman to present anything, but or if there are any other members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee who, present who would like to say anything on this item. No, nothing to.
Surprised, to be honest, that the chairman was that.
Yes, I hope so too. But if there are no points, then I'll then move on to.
It's just a thank you really for all the training that we were offered and given, because it was very useful having those open discussions about what overview of scrutiny is all about, especially for people like me who haven't been on it for a long time. So that was very useful, and the actual meeting itself went ahead very well. And we're hoping to be able to look at and review some interesting elements of what the council's doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walters. Without further ado, I move forward to item 12, the forward plan. This item is for noting. Does any of the member of the Cabinet have anything to say on this item? No. Item 13 then is to consider matters of special urgency. There are no urgent matters to consider this evening. Therefore, I close this meeting. Thank you all very much.